just know that we are really excited to have you here at the first ever CTE mini conference, National Academy Foundation School. You are the first. You're the first one to be innovative and collaborate with us on this very exciting model. And you're going to show the rest of the city how to do it. So we're so excited to have you. We're going to go over what's happening today in just a moment. But we're really excited to go ahead and kick it over to your leader, your innovative leader, saying yes to new things, looking for opportunities for you always, Principal Lampkin.
Thank you. Good morning, NAV family. We are so excited this morning to have all of you here. And I see some of the questions coming in the chat. Am I supposed to be here? Yes, you are supposed to be here. We thought it was important that all students participate in this CTE mini conference today. As you know, the vision of NAF is for all students to graduate college and career ready with options and opportunities after you leave high school. And even though we're in this pandemic, we're still on that path, right? I know that it was hard to be a kid before the pandemic, and for some of us, it's even harder. But I want you to know that I appreciate all of you pressing through, because we still have hopes and dreams for you, just as you have hopes and dreams for yourself. And as the song said, you know, as you came in this morning, we're gonna be all right, right? And we're going to help you get there. I am proud that 2 seniors have already been accepted into college. So continue on the path. Some of you have come to NAF already knowing that you wanted to be an engineer, you wanted to be a chef, you wanted to go into IT. In the middle school, some of us are still trying to figure it out. So today's mini conference is going to help you figure out what it is you want to do and talk to people who have been where you are and are where you want to go. So what I need from all of you this morning is to, one, stay committed, listen, be respectful, because as I shared with you in class meetings, you can still be suspended from virtual learning. And I hate to do that. It hasn't happened yet. So let's make sure that we behave in a professional manner at all times. There is a lot for you to learn today, and we are so excited about this learning, just as we are excited about your future. So as our motto says, be future ready. That starts today, okay? So enjoy the mini conference. I have to travel to the school building this morning. That's where I'll be, and I'll be checking back in later with you. I can't wait to hear all of the good things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Principal Lampkin. I love being future ready. And so we're here to support you in that. You're going to meet a lot of people from the work-based learning team. You'll meet all of us shortly. You've met our DJ, and you'll meet the rest of the amazing team in just a few minutes. Before I kick it over to our director, Director Kamasi Vines, just a few things. I'm really grateful to Principal Lampkin for talking about sort of the professional habits that we're cultivating now in school. And so just a few reminders for you that I think will help us out as we go through the conference. Our schedule is here. We're going to do our general session. So you can see we've got a great lineup of people. We're going to hear from the new Director of Career Readiness. Our keynote is Mr. Joe Jones from the Center of Urban Families. He will be with us shortly. You'll get to meet that work-based learning team that is so excited to serve you and get you into spaces of opportunity and learn from you. And then we're going to have one of our partners from Grads2Careers tell you about that particular breakout session. And we'll remind you of logistics before we go into our breakouts. Those breakouts are at 10:10 to 10:55, so it's a 45-minute breakout session, and then you'll have another one from 11 to 11:45. I'm watching the participants tick up. I know how this works. I know there's some sleepy folks out there that didn't think they needed to come on a Wednesday. So if you know there's somebody that just needs a text to get here, this is a space of opportunity, and you don't want any of your classmates to be left behind. So wake them up. They don't have to be camera camera ready. They just need to roll over and come on over. Okay, so let's get up to 200. We're at 188 right now. Let's see if we can get up to 200. Then we'll set a new goal for ourselves. A few reminders on what is professional practice in a virtual space. And again, Principal Lampkin already talked about those. Staying on mute unless you're invited by an adult to unmute. In some of the sessions, you won't be able to unmute, and others you will, but please just stay on mute so you're not a distraction to others. And then there will be opportunities for you to engage with our speakers. You can use either the chat or the Q&A box. Both of those are spaces where you can engage with us and we can ask some of your questions. We've already gotten some of your amazing questions, and we will be using those to push our conversation. And then you can use that chat box if you need clarification or supports in any way. Please reach out to us. Those are the primary ways that you would use the chat box. And most importantly, lean in. You can either be a passive recipient in this, or you can be active, and you can be actively building your network. Any single one of these people that's coming to speak to us today, they would love to support you. They would love to hear more about your story. So look for opportunities to start to build your network. Don't let this be a one-time thing, a one-off. Think about ways that you can take your learning today in new directions. And with that, we are going to turn it over to our wonderful new Director of Career Readiness, Mr. Kumasi Vines.
Good morning. Thank you, Barbara. And good morning, everyone. I'm over here bouncing. I was bouncing to the music, and now I'm trying to settle down for being excited to talk to all of you this morning. I want to keep it really brief because I really can't wait for you to hear from our guest speaker, our keynote speaker that's going to be coming up in a little bit. But I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and about our office and what I'm really hoping you get out of this day. So my name is Kumasi Vines. I am the Director of Career Readiness, which is located in the Office of College and Career Readiness. And in our office, our role is to make sure that we are doing everything that we need to do to support you, the schools, our principals, the teachers, in order to prepare you as much as possible for your careers once you leave Baltimore City Public Schools. And as a lot of that involves career exploration and career exposure, giving you an opportunity to see many different types of careers so it can spark an interest in what you may want to do when you leave Baltimore City Public Schools, and maybe even what you don't want to do. So I am from Baltimore. I'm born and raised, specifically West Baltimore. Still have strong family ties in West Baltimore. But as I've grown older and a little more mature, um, I've taken a lot of pride in Baltimore City and understand, regardless of what side of the city you're from, north, south, east, west, I really care about this city. I really love this city, and I can't take pride or care about the city if I don't care about what happens with our children in the city. What happens with you all? You all are my future. I'll be working for you one day, or I'll be buying your products, or I'll be going to the companies that you're going to be doing great things in. So it's in my best interest and my selfish interest to make sure that we do the best job we can do to prepare you for your future careers. I have had a mix of careers. I've done supply chain management in Chicago. I've done real estate investment banking in New York. I've done education management in DC. I've done water infrastructure management in Baltimore City. And now that I'm in education, I had to explore careers the hard and expensive way while I was an adult. So I really want you to take this opportunity, and not just today, but working with our office, working with the work-based learning team, working with your school and the caring adults in your school, to take their guidance and work with them to help you not do it the hard way like I did. This is really going to give you a jump start on what your future can be. And I'm really looking forward to you all participating today and learning more. And not just today, of course, but also going into the future. Again, I don't want to take up too much time because I'm really excited for the day weekend to kick off for you. So I just want to double check to see who's going to be introducing our great speaker today.
Thank you so much, Director Vines. We're so thankful for you to be here. Is there anything else you would like to say before we turn it over and we get some student voice in here?
You're asking me to talk more? Oh, of course. So as the year goes on, even though we're in this virtual space. We're still working very hard in our virtual office to provide opportunities for you. You'll learn more about the work-based learning team, but this team is really on the ground running about 100 miles a minute, trying to create more opportunities for you, such as this, where it's more like career exploration and just learning, but also building opportunities for internships and apprenticeships. You know, your teachers, your principal, us in the office, we're working really hard to provide these opportunities. But you know, it is also about accountability. If there's things you want to do, it is going to be you. It does take a little bit of initiative on your end to take advantage of these offers and these opportunities. I think you're very fortunate to have a lot of caring adults around you at the schools that want to keep pushing you forward, but we also need you to go ahead and grab those reins as well and walk with us in this journey as we try to help you towards your career. Um, if there's anything that specifically, whether it's career related or learning more about what steps you need to take to get to a specific career, please be sure to reach out to um, the adults in your school and or our office so we can work together to help you get there. Um, I'm really looking forward to you taking advantage of this, of today and all the programming that we're going to have working for you going forward.
Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Kamasi. Wonderful. All right, Tyron, am I saying your name right? Yeah, okay. So up on the screen is the bio for, was the bio for our next speaker. Tyron, can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Would you mind introducing our next speaker, Mr. Joe Jones?
Okay. Joseph T. Jones Jr. is the founder of Center for Urban Families, a Baltimore, Maryland nonprofit service organization established to strengthen urban communities by helping fathers and families achieve stability and economic success. Mr. Jones has received numerous awards and honors, including the Johns Hopkins University Leadership Development Program Distinguished Leadership Award, the Walter Sondheim Public Service Award, the White House Champion of Change, and was the 2013 Workforce Development Board and the National Fatherhood Leaders Group. He was a community advisor on fatherhood issues to Vice President Al Gore and contributed to First Lady Laura Bush helping America youth.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tyron. I don't know if it's on my end or yours that we're getting a little bit of a gap, but I would just want to thank you so much. Please stay on with us. And I'd love for you, if you have questions while Mr. Jones, during or after Mr. Jones is speaking, I'm going to invite you to unmute and ask your question. So be ready for that. Okay? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Jones.
Well, thank you all. Good morning, Tyron. Thank you, my friend, for that wonderful introduction, man. It was important and means a lot to me that you would take the time to do that. You know, you were asked to do it because I specifically requested that one of the students, introduce me. And I do that, because I want people to feel comfortable stepping into uncomfortable spaces. And I'll talk a little bit about that, during the time that I'll be with you. Like Director Vines, I'm a lifelong Baltimorean, and I want to share some thoughts with you today, and primarily, which I'll come to in a few minutes, it's going to be around a concept that I call boat management. B as in boy, OAT. So I am, if you can see my hands, I have a boat in my hands. I'm figuratively giving each student a boat. So I'm asking you to take this boat from me and hold on to it, because we're going to place you in that boat in a few minutes and have a conversation about that. Some of what I will talk about is going to be very personal to me. And I recognize as students, some of the students may be facing some of the similar issues I faced as a young person. And if it raises, ideas, concerns, thoughts, and it really requires that you share how you're feeling with somebody. Think about the folks in your network, particularly the school team that's around you, surrounding you, even though we're connected virtually, and reach out, because I do want to have an authentic conversation. I don't want to waste your time or mine not being authentic. So with that, being said, I am a husband. I'm a father of 3 children. And I'm a proud graduate of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. But the journey to get there for me was not traditional for some, but for others, it's quite traditional, particularly when you think about the experience of African Americans, and particularly African American men and boys in our country. I grew up in East Baltimore in what used to be Lafayette Court Public Housing Projects. We moved from there to the 1000 block of Emerson Avenue until we moved eventually to North Avenue, North in Warwick, right next to Coppin State College, where my mother still lives, has lived there for 50 years. And I then, in my journey, lived in Park Heights for 15 years. And that journey includes making a set of really, really bad choices, right? That had to do with my father and mother separating and divorced when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was the only child. And when Pops left, I was hurt, and I didn't even know how to articulate that pain. But what I did, the boundaries around me being exposed to street life were dismantled because my pops had left the house and my mother was working and going to school, so she could provide for me. But that gave me space to do things that I would not have been able to do had my parents remained. Even if they didn't stay together, they had managed a way to take care of their little boy without some of the challenges that their breakup and entailed. And so at 13, I was an altar boy at church, and I was a Boy Scout. And shortly thereafter, we moved to Emerson Avenue. I got connected with a group of peers who were slightly older than I was, and they were doing things that I had not done and really hadn't seen up front. And that included having sex at a very young age, doing drugs, and committing crimes, being involved in the drug game. And I quickly went from being an altar boy and a Boy Scout to a person who at 13 picked up a hypodermic needle filled with heroin, and I injected it for the first time. And I fell in love with heroin and then eventually cocaine because it masked the pain that I felt with not having my parents around, even my father around, even though I couldn't articulate it. At 14, I was incarcerated for the first time. And then for the next 17 years, I was in and out of incarceration, doing drugs, using drugs. It's kind of hard to be a drug dealer, a big time drug dealer, and a big time drug user. Those two things cancel each other out. So I wasn't even that good at being a drug dealer because I used. But I was fortunate that eventually, I was able to land in a residential drug treatment facility where I stayed a year. I'd had my first son during the time I was using drugs, so I had repeated the same cycle. I wasn't involved in his life, and I was really despondent and not sure what life had for me. And I really felt like I was destined to a life where I would die prematurely or die, incarcerated. And I was fortunate to land in this residential facility, drug treatment facility. I stayed a year, and I did not go into the drug treatment facility to stop using drugs. I actually went in to duck going to jail because I had some new charges. And I was fortunate the judge allowed me to stay in the facility, and I haven't looked back since. But then it was, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I was in such a hole that the first job was not to become a rocket scientist. It was just to get the heck out of the hole. And so I decided that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to being the very best I could be, just as I had tried to be the very best drug dealer and drug user, right? And I was really, really good at drug using and not all that great at drug dealing, right? But I was in that lifestyle. And at that point, I had earned a GED because after the 6th grade, I literally was in school but not of it. So I went to Calverton And then from there, I went to Douglas, Forest Park, Edmondson, and Northwestern. And I dropped out of Northwestern in the 12th grade. And so I earned a GED. And with that, I took a job with the federal government, and I was doing drugs, selling drugs pretty heavy at that time. Got arrested at work selling drugs on federal property. And so that put me out of a management training program that I was in at the job through the Baltimore City Community College. But once I went through that metamorphosis at the drug treatment facility, this is when this whole career readiness thing kicked in. I knew I wanted to go back to school and do more than just having a GED. I had the capability, right? And I decided to do one of the most ridiculous things that someone with my background could do, right? I decided to pursue an associate's degree in accounting at the community college. And I graduated top student in the accounting program, prepared to go to the University of Baltimore to pursue my undergraduate in accounting. And it was after I got the associate's degree, top student in the accounting program, that it dawned on me that someone with my criminal background was not likely to succeed in anything that had to do with finances. And what people took me under their wing. I had many mentors at the college, but I had mentors who were mentors personally, academically, but they didn't know me personally. So they didn't know about my criminal background. Had I had enough constitution to be able to share and disclose with them my criminal background, any good guidance or career counselor would have said, hey, let's unpack this, because that might not be the track that you want to pursue. So my message there is, as you think about what you want to do with your life, you've got people in your community, in your space, in your social network, right? Your career readiness folks who are prepared, trained, and competent to help you think through what your interests are, what your capacity is to pursue a particular discipline, to make sure you've got the right information to make the right choices about the time you're going to spend pursuing a particular discipline. So with that, I want to, and I'm prepared to take questions when we get to Q&A about anything that I talk about on the career readiness side and on the personal side. Don't feel like anything I shared with you about my past is off limits or out of bounds. It absolutely is not. But this concept of boat management, right? This is where I want to come back to that boat that I gave everybody. So I gave everybody a boat. And so each person now has a boat. And each person now has a destiny or a destination that they're trying to get to. And I heard early on that there are a few people who've already been accepted into college, and a few people, I heard the career engineering mentioned. So let's take engineering, and it could be any career that you want to think of. So whatever career that you think about now that you are thinking about pursuing, let's take that career and we're going to put you in a boat. And you may be a person who has family challenges. You may have struggled academically because of all kinds of distractions, but let's control for all of that and say you found yourself, and you now have this boat that's going to help you get to your destination. And it is a rowboat, right? It has no motor. It's a rowboat, and you have to paddle to get to your destination. But because you have some of these challenges in your background, independent of what they are, but if you think about some of the challenges that I had, if I have a goal and destination that I want to get to, a career, when I got into my boat with my paddle, I'm rowing upstream against the tide because of the challenges I had. It doesn't mean I can't get to my destination. It just means I've got to row a little bit harder. And this is where our social networks come into play, right? Because it's not likely that I'm in that boat by myself, right? Other people in that boat are my homeboys, my homegirls I came up with. It's my family members. It could be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a sibling, an uncle, an aunt, a parent. Those are all the folks who, combine to make our social network. And if you have people in your social network who aren't rowing in the same direction that you're rowing, and actually, you could have a person that's in your boat who's not rowing at all, right? And you can have people who are in your boat rowing in the opposite direction, but it's your boat and you've got a destination you're trying to get to. So we already know, because of some of our own personal challenges, getting to our destination, if we're in the boat by ourselves, will be difficult. But when we have people in our boat, our social network who aren't rowing or rowing in the opposite direction, it then becomes exceedingly more difficult to get to where we want to go. So we then have to start making some decisions and choices about how we're going to manage that boat, or who is in our boat, right? And that means that we have to start being cognitively conscious, aware of who the people are, what are the challenges they bring to being in our boat, right? Like my best friends when I came up are guys now who I can't hang with them anymore. I can't do it, right? They were rowing in the opposite direction. And so I had to make a conscious decision, as emotionally draining as it was, got to cut that relationship loose, right? And that meant I also had to think about, how do I create a new social network? How do I use the value and power of networks, positive networks, to help me to get to where I wanted to go? And I'll give you an example of how concrete that was for me. So I had the associate's degree in accounting. It's clear I'm not going to get a job in financial services, but I got to work. I cannot default to going back to the street. And so I began to think about what environments could I put myself in where there are people who were trying to go where I was going, and they weren't doing drugs. They weren't doing the things I did in the past. And so I had to cut loose a lot of people. And that meant that I was in my social network with a very limited number of people for quite a while. I had to get to know me. And there were things about me that I did not like. So I had to really get to like and know and love me again, right? But I had an opportunity to go to a meeting with a group of business and civic leaders. And I wasn't all that comfortable in that space. You know, I felt awkward. I felt less than. I felt like I didn't really deserve to be there, all because of my past and the things and the choices that I had made. But I decided to go. And so I had to learn how to be uncomfortable in new environments and new spaces. And so I go to this meeting, and they're asking me to give a talk, and I'm feeling really anxious about it. I'm feeling a little nervous. And in the meeting was a guy who I had heard of before but did not know. And his name was Dr. Freeman Rabowski, who is the president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and has been there for quite some time. And I shared my personal experience. I shared what my hopes and dreams were for Baltimore, for my own family, and for others. And he asked me why I had not gone back to school. And I made all the excuses: time, money, family. And he insisted that I come to his office the next day. And from that moment on, I don't even physically remember enrolling in UMBC. I know I had to go through the process, and I went through and I graduated with honors because I allowed myself to be uncomfortable in a new space, a new environment, and the new relationship that I had established helped me to build confidence, right? When I was less secure about myself, right? And allowed me to feel confident enough that I could compete in a relatively prestigious institution, right? So I share those things because I know that many of you as students, you're at that crossroads, whether you are, in the 12th grade, 11th grade, or, at a lower grade, but you're moving towards thinking about what career, what family means for you post high school. And right now, I will tell you, in terms of a social network, everybody that is on this Zoom call this morning is in a positive network because you chose to log on this morning. It may be required. And I almost laughed when Principal Lampkin said, you can be suspended from virtual school, right? I hadn't even considered, what that would be like. But I wanted to share those things with you and pause here to take any questions, and nothing is off bounds, but I really appreciated the opportunity to be with you guys this morning, and ladies. And Tyran, thank you again for introducing me.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Jones. Again, thank you so much for sharing that very powerful and authentic story. And welcome students and family members and everybody who's a part of NAF. We're very happy to have you all here. My name is Albert Phillips, and I'm a work-based learning specialist with Baltimore City Public Schools. Mr. Jones, as you were speaking, there were a few questions that came in from our students. If you have questions, we have been taking a look at the Q&A section. So continue to put those questions there, and we'll try to get them answers as best as we can. But one of the questions that came in was asking, did you go from being a drug dealer and drug user to becoming a top student?
I wish that was the case because I started using drugs and at 13, and I was incarcerated for the first time at 14. I literally missed a lot of lessons. And so from a writing and a grammar standpoint, I really had fallen behind. I built up my writing and grammar acumen now, but it's still not like where it would be had I been in school consistently without interruption. So my trajectory, and to be honest with you, I feel really good about some of the things that I've done. I've been an advisor to Al Gore as vice president. I've been an advisor to Barack Obama as president. I actually had the president asked him to come to the Center for Urban Families when he was president, and he actually came. That's the level of the game that I was participating in now in a positive way. But I had to struggle, and when my struggles were so deep that I felt inferior because I knew I had missed lessons in school, right? And I had to overcome feeling bad. So what I'm saying to you is, if you are a student who's not performing well academically, or you're unsure of how to make up for lessons you lost, come to your team at the school. You should be looking at the folks who work in Baltimore City Public Schools as people who work for you. You should be the CEO of your life, and you take control over, and you delegate, and you refuse to allow people who work for you not to perform, right, at a level that would be commensurate with somebody who works for your business, right? And your business is you. And right, so don't allow yourself to feel inferior, to think just because your grades aren't where they are now, right, that you can't. I went from a GED, struggling to get that, right, to graduating with honors at UMBC, right, and now doing things career-wise that I could not have done had I not put in the work. So the key is, whatever hand you've been dealt that you played with, put in the extra work consistently over time to increase your competency and your ability to perform. There's this other concept that's called POOR, P-O-O-R. And I'm not talking about monetarily poor. I mean poor in terms of it being an acronym that stands for passing over opportunity repeatedly. Do not pass over opportunity repeatedly. And the space that you're in right now, being in school with a team around you of people who are on the screen who work for you, use these tools to the best of your ability, and don't let your current situation, family, academically, or otherwise, stand in the way of you recognizing where you are and what it will take to move yourself forward.
That's powerful. I love the idea of being a CEO of your own life. I think that we have to continue to operate in that way. Tyron, I did want to pass it to you just to see if you had any questions for Mr. Jones today.
Hi. I had a question about when you were saying about people rowing the opposite way as you.
Yep.
Did you feel like they were bringing you the wrong way? Like sorry, did you feel like they were bringing you down from accomplishing what you really wanted to do, or you just had to let go of people who were like, or did you have to
Mhm.
just let go of people who were just teaching you the wrong thing?
Yeah, it wasn't so much about them pulling me down, because I just don't believe that people can pull you down. You allow yourself to go to a lower level because you don't have whatever it takes to make a decision to go in the opposite direction, right? So it's not about them per se, it's about me. And yes, people, it doesn't mean they're bad people, right? Like, this is not the case with my mother, right? But I have family members who are addicted to crack, who, when I get paid, every week, payday, there's something else going on with them that they need money, and they time their need for money to when I get paid, right? So if I know that that's a pattern and a practice, then I've got to figure out from a boat management standpoint, how do I not allow myself to be called on every Thursday, the night before I get paid, because I see that pattern. And they're often patterns that we see, but we just put them aside because we're emotionally tied to people, right? And it's important to have companionship and relationships, but it's also important to be disciplined about how you let people in your boat, that are not necessarily going to where you are. And it's difficult, but the first thing you have to do, you have to start practicing and being aware that people can be in your space, that you need to manage them out or not being in there consistently. It's not like you can throw everybody overboard, right? You can't throw your mother overboard, but you can manage how your mother's going to be in your boat.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I have some great questions that are coming into the Q&A box. One of the questions, the students wanted to know what are some study habits that you recommend? And then another question to piggyback off of that is, can you tell us again what POUR means?
Mm-hmm. So POUR stands for passing over opportunity repeatedly, right? It's one thing to get an opportunity, and because you're not prepared, you don't yet have experience, you may be uncomfortable, you let an opportunity go by. But sometimes opportunities don't come by, in multiple occasions, right? So you got to be prepared to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes about, right? And not let that opportunity go by. So passing over opportunity repeatedly. For me, everybody has different approaches to studying. For me, I'm not the kind of person who can procrastinate. I had people who at UMBC, I never saw them study, but because of some gift God gave them, they could prepare in crunch time and just, ace an exam without having put in the work. That wasn't me, right? I had to realize that my approach to being successful academically meant I had to take time out. I had to, when that basketball game was on and I had to prepare for an exam, it was hard for me to turn off the TV, right? I had to develop the discipline, one, to turn off that TV and identify a priority that was important to me as being CEO of my life, right? I also had to think about what it meant to, what those deficits that I had around writing and grammar. I had to realize that I had to put in some additional work to overcome, and I had to be comfortable enough to reach out prior to a problem becoming so acute that I failed an exam. If I knew I was having trouble, one of the things that I had to do to prepare was to reach out for help before the problem became acute. For me, it was my habit was, it becomes acute, then I go after the fact and ask for help, right? When it's too late, right? So I had to realize that for me, thinking about how I need to prepare in terms of the amount of time I needed to prepare, and not let what somebody else did influence how I thought about what I needed to do for me. So there was a couple of things that come top of mind for me personally, as I think it may be helpful for you to really realize how you need to prepare yourself for study and academic excellence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for answering that. And one of the last questions that came up twice in the chat, student wanted to know, was your depression because your father left, and was that what caused your drug use?
Yeah, and I hate to use that as a crutch, man, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I told you I wanted to be authentic. I was crushed when Pops left. I was crushed, man. And I'm still not over it, to be honest with you, right? It happened. There was no conversation with me. It was like they had some kind of, issues going on, and he left. And we lived on the 7th floor of the projects. To this day, I can still see him leaving out of that building, never to return. And the relationship that we had, the closeness that we had, it ended abruptly. And so, I'm a young Black male in Baltimore City, so I don't have the capacity to go around telling my homeboys I hurt. And I really don't know what hurt means at that particular point. And so when I put that drug in my body, it masked that hurt and that pain. And every time that I injected that drug, the pain went away. And so because of my consistency with that, I developed a habit for drugs, and then a habit for that lifestyle. And then it spiraled out of control. So if you're having those kind of feelings around, and I'm not naive. I know that there are many folks, many students that are on that have similar kind of challenges, right? Reach out to the folks that are in your network, the folks that are on the CTE team, your other counselors at school, a teacher who you have, confidence that you can share it and people won't judge you, because I know how difficult it can be, but I know how painful it is. And yes, I used it as a crutch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for your transparency and your just openness about your background and where you've come from. You're inspiring our students to just be open and transparent themselves and ask questions. The last question is, was it hard for you to recover from drugs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was the most difficult thing that I ever had to, because I fell in love with it. Michael Jordan fell in love with basketball. Steph Curry fell in love with basketball. I think I definitely had the capability of playing uh, at the NCAA level, college level, right? I think I may have had potential skills to play at the NBA level, but I will never know, because I dedicated myself to being a consumer of narcotics to mask the pain that I had. And it was really, it wasn't just the drug itself. Once I was able to recover and get sobriety and have it fundamentally a part of my life, it was also the lifestyle associated with being in the drug game I was addicted to. So I had to change all of that to begin to operate and feel like I could live normally without drugs as a substance to carry me. And then to get away from the lifestyle associated with, cash and the glamour of the streets. None of that was going to help me get to the place that I am now. So I dispatched with all of that, and it was really, really difficult. But what I was clear about, I was going to develop a relationship with the God of my understanding. I was going to be thoughtful about the people who I let in my boat, right? I was going to take command of my business, and my business was being the CEO of my life, right? And I would spend time the rest of my life dedicated to having conversations with students like you all, because that's where I come from. And that is what is important for us as a society. And it's more difficult for you all in 2020 than for any other generation of folks that will live on this earth. 2020 will be a defining moment in your lives, and how you come through this and what you do to prepare yourself to give back to society will be how society succeeds from here. We can't do this without you. I think Kumasi, mentioned that in his opening remarks. We need you, right? And you need yourself.
Thank you so much. The kids, the students are just so motivated by you. The questions keep coming in, and we want to give Greg an opportunity. But this question is a great one. They wanted to know, what was the first step you took onto your journey for a better life, and what motivated you? I think that question is worthy of taking 1 minute, 60 seconds to answer if you can.
Well, when I got to the community college, I was on academic suspension because of the arrest, at the federal job. And I had to make the case for getting back in. And there was a young lady who worked in the office where I had to submit my credentials to be reconsidered. And I thought she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. And as I tried to talk with her, it was clear, where I was coming from. I had deficits, and she refused to talk to me. And I was consistent and I was persistent. And today, she and I have been married over 2 decades, right? So fellas, when you get to that point, you're ready, be thoughtful about a relationship, what you want, but be true to who you are and be very respectful, particularly of our sisters, right? Let's really think what it means to be a gentleman, as we work to be who we can be, to be the best person, best student, best career person that we possibly can be.
Thank you so
That was
much.
my motivation.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Jones. Your story is beautiful. We appreciate you. I'm a West Baltimorean myself, like Kumasi. So,
What side? I'm sorry, y'all.
So I personally appreciate you just sharing with us and being transparent. Stick around. If you got a few minutes, maybe a few more questions will come in. But right now we're gonna pivot to Greg2Careers with Grads2Careers to share. Hopefully you'll join his session. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the CTE team for having me. And thank you, Mr. Jones, for sharing your story. I'm truly inspired. That's the second time I've heard you speak here in Baltimore, and I just walk away with chills every time. So I just really thank you for sharing your story and the authenticity you bring to every space you're in. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm not going to go on too long because there are 2 breakout sessions for Grads2Careers. But I do want to real quick share my screen just so that there's a visual to go along with what I'm saying. So I'm going to do that real quick right now, and I'm going to ask somebody on my team to make sure they can see what I'm doing here. Can everybody see my screen?
We see it. Thanks, Greg.
All right, great. So just real quick, I want everybody at this opening panel to know what Grads2Careers is. Grads2Careers is a program with one specific goal, and that goal is to establish a pathway for recent Baltimore City Public Schools graduates into well-paying, high-demand, and high-growth occupations. All right, so this is the why of why Grads2Careers came about. We came about because people in the city figured out that there is a gap. There's a gap that exists, and there was a need for a new model to improve employment and earnings outcomes for young people in Baltimore City. We want more young people to be able to get out there and make more money and be able to start their careers more quickly and with more supports. So we want to make sure that students know about all the options that are available so that no one graduates without a plan. Some years ago, there was some research done that showed that as many as 1 in 4 high school graduates in the city didn't go to college and didn't get a job after they graduated. So again, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen and that no one graduates at the end of their senior year without a plan for what they're doing next. So our focus, really, our primary focus is on current Baltimore City School seniors who are about to graduate in 2021. And then if you know anybody that's under 22, who is a Baltimore City School graduate or a GED recipient, they are also eligible. And the key thing, you take away one thing, is that all these programs are totally free. So there's no tuition, there's no cost associated with it. It is free as long as you're a Baltimore City Schools graduate or you have a GED and you're under 22. And then some of you out there might be asking what careers are available. So I've been with this program for 3 years now, and I can tell you every year we're adding more and more programs. We started with only about 6 career paths, and now we have that whole list in front of you right there. And we've gone from about 10 free training options up to 23. And I can promise you that's going to keep growing as the years go by. But as you can see, we talk about high need careers. We've got 7 different programs available in healthcare, 3 in construction, and you can read all of the rest. We even just added a program in unmanned drone piloting. So that's something I know nothing about, but there are jobs coming available in that, and there's a lot of interest in it. So we have all types of things for any interest. And really what we're trying to do is just offer something that will spark that bug in somebody to say, hey, I want to go do that. I want to go learn more about that. I want to start my career in that program. So who am I? Basically, I sit in the CTE office, the College and Career Readiness office with the colleagues that are on the call today. So I work at North Avenue, and my job basically is to be a connector and an advocate for any student who wants to get into one of our training programs. My core belief and the reason I do this work is because I believe that strong professional relationships are the most important aspect of finding work that you enjoy. I think that telling your story and being able to make those connections is huge. And so I try to provide that type of relational care and support to every applicant that I work with. So I promise you that if you apply, that you're going to hear from me probably more than you want to hear from me. And I just promise to provide that type of relational care. And then another big thing is just availability and responsiveness. At Grads2Careers, we pride ourselves on being available and responsive. So I'm going to leave my phone number in a couple different places today. If you're on one of my breakout rooms, I'm definitely going to put all of our contacts and information during those sessions. But basically, we believe that it's important to have mentors and have people in your network who you can ask questions of, because sometimes it gets difficult figuring out how to apply to places, how to prepare for an interview, how to get the place on time, and just to figure out the different things that you need to do to be successful in a training program and then in finding a job. And so the final part here, I'm just going to leave this up, before I close is just that if you or someone you know might be interested in this, even if you think that, you know, if you're planning on going to college and you think you just need a backup plan or a plan B, we love to just be an option for people, and we love just to be in contact, because again, we don't want anybody to graduate without a plan, whatever that plan may be. We just want you to know that we're available to offer support, and if you apply, you'll get outreach from me directly, and we can talk more about training programs and all these awesome options that we have. So again, I thank you for your attention and just for being here, and for, you know, all that you've been doing this year to get through this really wild time we're having, and I hope we're all together doing these types of events sometime soon.
Thank you, Greg, so much. Really appreciate you sharing. We really wanted to get Greg in front of all of you so you knew what was going on in his session. And if you are at all interested, or you don't know what happens for you next year, or you're a junior and you're like, I don't know what happens for me once I graduate. If you have any thoughts at all that maybe you would need some support, Greg is just an amazing supportive. I have former students who, you know, I hand it off to Greg, and I know that he is looking out for them. They tell me like about how much he supports them as they're trying to find what's next for them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can show us what's happening next. All right, so we are now transitioning into our breakout sessions. So just a reminder that you're going to choose a breakout session. There's 2 rounds of this. They're 45-minute sessions. One bit of guidance is that if you're going to Grads2Careers, we are encouraging seniors to go there first. So go to Grads2Careers first, and then choose another session for the second one. Greg is just going to tailor his talk in the first session more to seniors who are more immediately graduating from high school. And if you can only go to the first session and you're an underclassman, we're not going to kick you out or anything like that. So, but just know that that is what we're sort of hoping that we can do. The second thing is you are going to take an exit survey after the second session. We will post that link. It's both so we can get feedback from you, but it's also so that we can take attendance for you. So just watch for that. That's just a bit of logistics. Now, as far as how do you get to these sessions, you should have received from a teacher or from an administrator, from somebody, a planning sheet, and it has Zoom links on it. And those links will take you either to an engineering panel, a panel on culinary and hospitality, to a Grads2Careers breakout session, or to a careers at Ernst & Young, and that is an accounting financial firm. So there's descriptions on that sheet. So that sheet will look like this. I'm going to just show it to you. You should have it probably in a Google Classroom somewhere. So it has the sessions. And so here we were in the general session. We clicked on the link to get here. Here's our schedule. And then if you scroll down, you can see these breakout sessions with the descriptions. Now, we want to encourage you that once you join a session, don't jump around, stay in that session. You're only there for 45 minutes, just like this one, it's going to fly by. And so please just stay in the session for the 45 minutes. And then after, at about 10:55, you'll be guided to transition to the next session, which will start at 11. Okay. And then you'll click on your next link. If you've got questions about that, you can put them in the chat. I'm going to stop screen sharing and
Hey, Barbara.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say real quick that the links to the breakout rooms are also now in the chat box. So if you look in the chat box, you'll see those links. I think Adenike just posted them.
Awesome. So that's it for me. I'm going to hop into my session, but Adenike, did you want to hop on? The one person from our team that's been behind the scenes that you haven't met yet is Adenike Akintillo. We want her to come on so you can see her face. She is our manager. She's an amazing leader. We're so
Good
grateful
morning,
for her.
everyone.
And she's also going to thank all the people. We can't thank all the people, but the people that we need to thank. So she's going to take away some things. give us some thank yous, and I'm going to hop on and meet with our panelists, and I hope to see you guys in
Thank you
our
so
session.
much. And thank you, first of all, thank you, Barbara and Mr. Ndadi for putting this together. Mr. Ndadi, I didn't know if you want to say a few words as people start transitioning or any guidance there, and then I can follow up after you.